Hello and welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Welcome back to another weekly used gun review. Remember, in these videos, what I do is I take a sampling of different used firearms that come into our store and give you a 2 to 4 minute review of each one to give you guys an idea of a bunch of different things that are out there on the market. Keep in mind, the point of this video is strictly to be educational. Nothing in this video is for sale, to keep in accordance with YouTube's policies. Anyway, guys, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into it now. Alright, jumping into this, remember the format is we start off with the most common and move through the least common as we move through these, and each one of these videos has about 8 firearms in it. So starting off, I have a Smith & Wesson model 642. This is part of their Airweight series. The 642 is the stainless with a concealed or shrouded hammer. The 442 would be the same firearm but with a black finish. The 637 would be just like this but with an exposed hammer, and then the 638 would have a shrouded hammer where you could actually reach and pull it back, but on either side it is shrouded just to protect it from being snagged or whatever when you're drawing it from your pocket. This series, the little J-frame Airweight series, is a very, very popular series for concealed carry. The price point on these is not very high, brand new. We sell them in here at about the $450 price point under normal circumstances. Used typically around the $350, $389. They actually do keep a lot of their value as used firearms. And the double action only, they are a really nice trigger pull, very smooth. With some practice, you can figure out how to stage it for that nice, it'd take a little bit of practice, but with a little bit of practice you can stage that easily for a nice double action, very smooth double action trigger pull. Now, one thing about these, and this is common with most of the modern Smith & Wesson products, is you have a frame lock right here. It comes with a set of keys that you can lock out the frame for safety purposes. There is a series of the 642s that you can get actually today that do not have that frame lock, so if you want that option, that's available to you. Little snub nose basic gutter rear with a post front sight. Rubber grips are not very big, and again, I have pretty small hands and already my pinky is sort of falling off the bottom, so if you have large hands, it is a pretty small grip. Stuff like this, really, really popular with women. They do make the Lady Smith series, but of course, as a backup or an everyday 5-shot 38 special plus pure revolver, it's a really good option, especially for the money. Some competitors to this would be like the Model 85 from Taurus, the ultralight series more specifically, which is also a 38 special, and those are about new. They're about the $300 to $330, so for a little bit more than $100, you can get into the Smith & Wesson Airweight series. Just an overall great product. We always carry these things new in our store, and the different hammer configurations used, they don't last too long. Of course, under circumstances like these, something like this is a great option for the price. So something definitely that I recommend taking a look at if you see one on your dealer's used gun shelf. Alright, up next I have a Performance Center Shield 2.0 in 9mm. This one does not have its box, but has both magazines. These shields come with an 8-round and the 9mm. They come with an 8-round and a 7-round extended and flush-fitted magazine. Now, of course, the first gen shield would come onto the market, gosh, I mean, it's been 10, 11, 12 years ago. It's been a very long time, and those have been very popular firearms. For those people who watch this channel frequently, you know I conceal carry the first gen shield, which I've owned for about 8 years. So a really, really good firearm. A few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, they came out with the second generation, which basically was an improvement on the trigger, an over travel adjustment, stop, front side serrations, and more aggressive sandpapery type feeling on the grip. With a slight rise in the price, the base model Shield 2.0s are up around the $400 to $420 range respectively, which is kind of where they stabilize. Come down a little bit, but right now, of course, with weird times, are a little bit higher. Now, about a year to a year and a half ago, they came out with the Performance Center, and they make these in the long barrel, the short barrel, the ported, the optics ready, so there's lots of different options. This is, of course, the non-ported long barrel without the optics ready option. And in this configuration, MSRP is about $550, but typically you would find them listed about $499. Used, you're probably about, you know, the $400 price point, maybe a hair under. With the times going on right now, a little bit higher. They are a metal dovetail adjustable rear and front sight with the high vis fiber optic sights, which is one of the Performance Center features. Of course, the improved trigger all the 2.0 features and the longer barrel. Of course, these have always been very popular concealed carry options. Being that it is a little bit longer with the 8-round capacity, it's tough for something like this to compete with like the P365 XL, which is about the exact same size actually, maybe even a little bit smaller with a 12-round capacity instead of 8. The XL also comes with optics ready options, and again, those under normal circumstances are about $560. So you're still, you know, at about the 500, between 500 to 560 is kind of your price break difference there. So these, it's just been a little bit tougher to move these in my store, and I'm just giving you my experiences than it has been since like the 365 XLs came out, which is shortly after the release of these. So anyway, they are really, really good firearms. If you find one, take a look. Again, I still prefer the basic models, but people do really like the performance centers. I have seen quite a few of them come through my store used. I never have carried them new. And I've had a handful of people special order them. So they are nice for what they are. Good feeling, good balanced firearm. Great for concealed carry if you're okay with something a little bit larger. Also car defense, home defense, nothing wrong with them. Great on the range too. Nice trigger reset. A lot crisper and smoother break than on my first gen. So I will say that's definitely an increase or an improvement there, but nice, definitely worth picking up and taking a look at if you see one. Okay, up next I have a Smith & Wesson model 649-3. This is similar to the 642 you just looked at, but that was an airweight alloy frame. This is a full stainless steel frame, so quite a bit heavier. Now, like the 38 Special, they see the 638, which was the shrouded hammer, just like this, the shrouded hammer version of the 642. This also has a shrouded hammer. As you can see, there is an actual hammer here you can bring back if you want to shoot it in double action, but it is shrouded on the sides to protect it. Like I mentioned, pre-lock, full steel frame, really nice heft and weight to it. This is an older version, being the Dash 3. Now, you can still get these today, and these brand new are going to run you about $650. I looked at this on the market, the pre-lock, a little bit older, still maintaining a lot of its value, and they are selling used for about the $600 to $650 mark. If you had a newer old one, you know, you're probably a little bit less, probably around the $500 mark. But that's the thing about Smith & Wesson revolvers, is they've been made for such a long time, and the older ones, it's kind of like classic cars. The older ones are peaking in value. The newer production ones that are used are declining in value. But of course, as time goes on, those will then be considered more classic, and those will go up in value. So again, that's just sort of how the classic Smith & Wesson revolvers have been. Same with Colt 1911. So it sort of follows the same mantra. This one, the little side plate screws have been replaced with longer screws so it can house this belt clip. So this is meant to just slide right in the pocket, and the clip to hang right over the side of the pocket. You could take that off. You would have to source out new screws to put in there. Again, very basic gutter rear with a post front sight. 5-round capacity. Now this is a 357, not a 38, so of course a heavier frame is going to help you there with recoil. One of the advantages of a 357 is you can shoot 38 and 38 plus P through it, so with the heavy frame is going to be a very light shooter. So something like this would be great for, again, a glove box gun, home defense. I mean, I would always recommend for home defense a dedicated home defense gun going a little bit bigger, but you know, if you have this as a secondary backup and you've got somebody at home who needs one as like a nightstand gun with a 38 plus P in it with this weight, very easy to control. So there's that option. The other thing I really like about 357s is if you want to train on lesser expensive 38 ammo, that option's there for you. So really, really nice classic revolvers. I've always been a fan. I've always been more in the camp of the Smith & Wesson revolver than I have been the Colt. Just a lot more options there, just a lot more utilitarian in my opinion. Nothing wrong with the Colt revolver. I've just always really liked the Smith & Wessons. But anyway, I'm happy to get this, and something like this will not last too long. There's always a market for both collectors and people who need a good functional revolver, and that's the great thing about Smiths, is they fit both niches. So I always love seeing a Smith come in. All right, up next I have an SPR Mod 2 from Armalite. This is an AR10 in 308 7.62 by 51. The AR, of course, an AR-15 or AR-10 does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite rifle, and the AR-10 would have been the first brainchild of Eugene Stoner, who was working for Armalite, a division of Fairchild, who manufactured aluminum parts for aircraft, which of course would then bring about the AR-10 and then the AR-15 as it was later adapted for the smaller 222 and then the 223, which of course was popularized in the Vietnam War. First the XM16E1 and then the M16, 603, 604. You guys know the story. I have a whole video dedicated on this topic, but with all that out of the way, the Armalite AR10, this is sort of the modernized, revamped version of the original design by Eugene Stoner. So in 1996, Armalite was sold, or the Armalite brand was sold to Mark Wesson, who then continued production of the AR-15 and the Armalite AR-10 pattern firearms. In the early 2000s, they had a pistol line out. Of course, Armalite was also popular for the AR-7, the little survival rifle, which is now made by Henry and one other manufacturer that's escaping me right now. In 2013, they were sold to the Strategic Armory Corps, which also owns Macmillan Firearms, and they're of course continuing production of the firearms today. Typically, the Armalite firearms are not super high-end. This would retail brand new in about the $1,000 to $1,200 mark, used in about the $700 to $800 mark, but of course right now with elevated prices, these are selling used for upwards of the $1,000 mark. Now this particular one is pretty marked up, scratched, scuffed. Previous owner actually says it's really a result of going in and out of the safe, not really a result of like, when I first looked at this, I thought it had been on, 30 or 40 hunting trips. In fact, it's just a bunch of safe wear. So there's that. A perfect candidate for something like a Cerakote job or something, but yeah, very, very marked up and scratched. But again, that's not going to affect how it functions. There are no sights. So something like this, I would expect to sell in its condition for $600, $700. But also previous owner has like a mini Barrett M82 muzzle brake, which is actually installed upside down. So we got to flip that back up on there. But anyway, really, really nice rifles. AR-10s, especially, under normal circumstances, if you can pick them up used for $700, $800, really a good option. Rivals the price of like a DPMS 308 or like the M&P AR-10s that come out from Smith & Wesson. A very basic, as you can see, straightforward AR-10 rifle. Great for hunting or any other use. Really, really cool. Of course, glad to see AR-10s come in. Okay, up next I have a Ordnance P1345. This is a 1911 single action only, of course, with a double stack 45 ACP magazine. 13 round capacity, 45 ACP, 1911. Now, Ordnance has been known for making really, really quality, especially 1911 firearms, for a really affordable price. They do typically rival with the ATI and the Rock Island firearms. The basic Ordnance 1911s typically retail new $500, $600. You can find them used $300, $400. Now this really nice, beautiful bitone, ambi safety, extended beaver tail safety. The trigger pull on this is actually extremely light. I'll just go ahead and snap it here. Very, very light trigger pull. Check the reset. Now, these really, really large, wide grips. This is a Hogue wraparound grip, which is huge in my hand. I can't even get to the magazine release while holding the trigger barely. Reset. I mean, really, really light, really, really nice. Still feels comfortable in the hand, just hard to manipulate those controls without breaking your grip, but again, I have very small hands. This one's in excellent condition. Now, these actually maintain quite a bit of their value. Used, I'm seeing them on the used market between about $500 and $600. So not too easy to come by. I think I've only had like, maybe this is the second one we've had in the 6 years we've been open. So not too frequent to come by. Just a really nice feeling, good balanced firearm. Again, you're up there in capacity with something like a Glock 21 or an FNX 45 Tactical or something like that. 13 to 16 rounds. I mean, anywhere in there is plenty for 45 ACP, especially it is still not that huge of a package, just standard 1911 size, just a little bit bigger on the grip. So I do like this kind of thing. Really cool, unique, different. Don't see too many double stack 1911s come in, and when they do, they don't last too long. So I'm just happy to get something like this in. Okay, up next I have the Sig P220. This one here is a 45 ACP. They also make it in 10mm. It was made in many different calibers over its existence, but many pretty much most of those have been discontinued. So now you can get them in 45 and 10 millimeter. Now this came onto the scene from Sig in 1975 and is still manufactured today. You can get them in the compact and the full-size version. Compact standard capacity is 6 rounds. The full-size standard version is a standard capacity of 7, and then they now have the extended magazines, which have 8, with just a little bit of extension out here at the bottom. Now in the Sig fashion, they make these in a million different configurations and styles, whether it's like the stainless elite, the scorpion version, the nitron, so you can get them in many different configurations. MSRP again is going to be all over the board because, you know, the different stylizings, like the elite stainlesses usually retail around the $950 to $1,000 range, and the basic nitrons you typically find in about the $700 to $800 range. They made the Equinox, which I don't believe they manufacture anymore. We had one of those. They had the 220 and the 227 Equinoxes. I don't know if they're doing the Equinox anymore on that, but those would be a little bit higher in about the $900 price point. So it really depends on the configuration. Now this is the base model, and this is actually an older one that was made in Germany. And so the West German SIGs actually do bring a little bit of a premium just due to collectability. So it's kind of like the first era of the SIG series firearms. This was actually also marked SIG Arms Exeter, New Hampshire. So they would have opened their plant here in the United States in about 1992 to 1995, somewhere in there. So you had the German guns that were manufactured in Germany, brought in through New Hampshire. You had like final assembly in New Hampshire or a new production starting there in about the late 90s. And they actually started with the first fully domestic made SIG would have been the 229 and a 40, so just a fun fact there. This one in the basic configuration with one magazine, non-original grips, probably retail about $500 to $600 because it is a German manufactured SIG. The American made ones and the basic nitron used again is probably going to be somewhere around there, $400 or $500. Now the pricing, of course, again is elevated because of the times we're in now, but it is a little bit of an antiquated design, being a full-size firearm with a 7-round capacities and 45 ACP. So you sort of have to have the nostalgic love for one of these as you would in 1911. So again, just been a little bit surpassed with other options on the market, being all metal, a little bit heavy, but of course undeniably a nice, attractive, elegant looking firearm. Always going to have that place with the nostalgic shooters and collectors, especially the SIG product line. There's always people out there buying them. Really, really cool firearms, and if you ever get a chance to shoot one, the 220s and the 227s, even in a 45 ACP, are just a joy to shoot. They're very controllable. The ergonomics are great. Feels great in the hand. Double single action. Of course, if you guys have held any of these, like the 226, the 229, it's all very similar. A decocker right here, double single action. Just a really, really good overall feel and a great firearm. If you get the chance to get your hands on one, I definitely recommend you do, and you probably won't regret it. All right, up next I have a pretty iconic little rifle. This is a Browning BL-22, and these would have been manufactured between about 1969 and today, most prolifically being manufactured by Moroku in Japan. Now these came in 2 grades, obviously the grade 1 and the grade 2. This is a grade 2, and what makes this a grade 2 is the checkering on the forend and on the buttstock, as well as the nice scroll work laser etched engraving here on the receiver. Now one of the things that makes this very iconic, it is a rimfire. This one is a 22, is it does have a lever action, but when you throw the lever, it's like the entire trigger mechanism falls down with the lever throw of the rifle, as opposed to the standard lever that we're used to, where the trigger stays put and the lever is what moves. Of course, it is a side eject and a tubular feed, a round barrel. They did make octagonal barrels. The field grade or the grade 1 is identical to this rifle, just does not have the checkering on the stocks and does not have the engraving on the receiver. Now, of course, since these have been around for 50 years, there are a lot of collectors on these, and a lot of people have nice nostalgic memories of taking these out, plinking, tin can shooting, and the like. So there are definitely always buyers and collectors on these. Now the grade 2, this is like new condition. The previous owner said he took it out of the box once, put I think 1 or 2 tubes through it, and then put it back in the box and hasn't touched it since. And honestly, there's not a single wear mark or anything on this. It looks brand new. A grade 2 like this in this condition in the original box is probably in today's market going to sell between about $500 and $600. The grade 1s are about $100 to $150 less in similar conditions. So, of course, very, very nice, iconic rifles, very lightweight, handy, fun to shoot, very nice, very short throw, so you can get very quick shots on these on target. Just a lot of fun, straight stock. Really, really like these, and this is probably only my second or third BL22 that we've ever had in here. So again, don't see them too often, and this is just a great example. All right, last but not least is a Colt Delta Elite. This would be Colt's 10mm version on the 1911 design. This is a Series 80, which for those of you who don't know is when they introduced the safety plunger back here, so the firearm could not be, the firing pin could not get access to the back of the primer without the trigger being pulled. It was a lawyer feature, something that a lot of 1911 aficionados do not like, but you know, the Series 80 does exist, and this is still a very collectible firearm. So the Delta Elite was introduced in 1987 and is still manufactured today. In fact, this is a 4-digit Delta Elite made in 1987, so this is a first-year production. They made it in blued and stainless. They made it in the gold cup and a match configuration. This would be the first variation or first series, just a standard blued model. Single action only with a Delta Elite rubberized grips. 3 magazines, and this one unfortunately does not have its box, but overall condition is excellent. The trigger pull on these is very, very, very nice. Even though it does have that internal plunger, the Series 80 plunger, there really isn't a whole lot of stacking on this, so it is a very refined feel and tune to the trigger. So I do really like it. Now, interesting thing about the Delta Elite is it was the first commercially successful 10mm firearm to come onto the market. It did follow the Bren 10, which was more of a niche firearm made by a small manufacturing company, but the Delta Elite from Colt would be the first actual wide-scale production 10mm on the market, of course, hitting in 1987, and would spur the big interest and following in the 10mm cartridge that, of course, many people enjoy today. So, of course, 10mm for the Bren 10, but this is the one that really pushed it out there into the stratosphere with shooters and enthusiasts up until today. So a really, really cool firearm. In this condition, being it is a first-year production, the value on something like this would be about $1,000. Now, you can get, of course, again, a brand new Delta Elite. MSRP on those, I think, is around $1,200. You can find them $1,000, $1,100, somewhere around there. So this one, of course, being older, has really maintained its value. If you get things that are like used but new ones, so you know, Delta Elites that are a couple years old, you know, the value on those might be $800, $900. But anyway, really, really nice firearms. Really glad to get this in here. This actually, I have stocked new Delta Elites in here. I have had 1 or 2 used. Those are, I think I've had 2. Those are both stainless and both relatively new, you know, manufactured within the past couple of years. This is the first one I've ever had that's actually blued, and a first-year production makes this exceptionally interesting. So I'm really, really happy to have this in here, and it'll make a really nice addition to somebody's Colt 1911 collection. Of course, being the first year of the first 10mm Delta Elite. Very, very cool firearm. Well, that is all the time I have for you today on these. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this video. If you enjoyed, please let me know by hitting that like button. If you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you off there. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV. I will see you next time.